In her column in this week's Farmers Weekly, AgriHQ senior sheep and beef analyst Suz Bremner has leant across the rails to share her concern for the gaping hole between store lamb prices and outlooks for schedules, saying it is defying their logic. If you'd like more of this great insight, please make sure to subscribe to AgriHQ's wonderful Insight Market Report straight into your inbox. Head to agrihq.co.nz for more. And with a summary of this valuable insight, Suz joins us now. Good evening, Suz.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, as always. And it's interesting, especially when your team at AgriHQ have the entire part from global markets right through to what's happening behind the farm gate under a microscope at all times for the benefit of our farmers. So firstly, I'd love to know, so can you just set the scene for our audience about, firstly, what you're seeing overseas in terms of your predictions for schedule prices to work forward to that comment about defying logic? And in particular, what does spring and this Christmas chill market look like as from today?
Sure. So coronavirus has really shaken up our international markets. We've seen demand for mainly our high-end products fall away, obviously because people aren't heading out to socialise, to restaurants and so on. But also our frozen lamb products have also taken a bit of a hit. So that's not exactly new news, but I think what's really happened is it's gone on a lot longer than a lot of people predicted it possibly would, particularly with a lot of countries going into yet another round of the pandemic, and it's just continued, which has impacted our demand for our products in a really, really big way, and obviously lamb being a pretty major export of ours. So looking forward to the next coming months, obviously we've got the new season lambs coming on. We're seeing the end of the old season lambs at the moment. We're potentially looking at a bit of a gap between old season and new season, just the way things have panned out, which we'll chat a bit about a bit later on. But we're expecting prices will peak in October under $8 a kilo. That is going to depend on what the exchange rates do. We might see the North Island hit $8, but our outlook suggests that that's not necessarily likely. South Island, if it's going to peak, it might be around $7.30 a kilo carcass weight. So those prices are about $1 a kilo behind what we saw last year. They're not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, and probably given the global circumstances, we really should be pretty happy with those levels. But when we compare them to what we're seeing in the store lamb market, that's where we really start to wonder what's going on.
Now let's work back to the past week of sales at Fielding and Storford Lodge. Male and new lambs are flying out the door to some of these big operators. What is driving this store market when you've just, in reflection to that global market outlook?
Well, it's just been quite a ride, really. Prices generally lift at this time of year when that supply of old season sort of starts to die down. Obviously, the male lambs are running out. We're seeing new hoggets come in as people sort out their replacements and offload what they don't want. So it's not an unusual movement, but what's unusual about it this year is that we've actually in the last couple of weeks seen the store lamb market prices, particularly at Fielding and Storford Lodge, which is bigger yards in the North Island. We've seen prices match last year's, which when you're working on $1 per kilo schedule that's less than the year before, that's where we're saying, well, this just doesn't stack up. Prior to the last couple of weeks, prices, the store lamb prices were tracking about 60 cents per kilo live weight less than last year. That's okay, considering that we've just been through a drought. People have got short feed coming up, so it's good lamb tucker. So there've probably been a few more people targeting that market than would usually be to try and re-enter up market to get stock back on farm. But what we've really seen in the last 2 weeks is a bit of a David and Goliath game, which I referenced in Across the Rails. we've got our smaller operators and we've got our big operators who feed into obviously the processors. They'll be on contracts with them. The smaller operators have been basically, no other way to say it, they have been essentially pushed out of the market, mainly by the fact that the big operators have been able to pick up a lot of stock in the paddock at pretty reasonable rates. They've then needed to perhaps top up from the sale yards. Because they've been picking up at those reasonable rates in the paddock, they've been able to come into the sale yards with bigger budgets, because at the end of the day, everything for them will average out to within a budget price. So they've stepped into our sale yards and they have competed against each other. So there's your Goliath. There's 4 or 5 of them in any one day at Fielding and Stilford Lodge, battling it out to get their numbers. And then the smaller operators who work on a tighter budget have been pushed out of that market. So it has been a really, really interesting ride, but hopefully that may help people kind of understand a little bit what is going on in these store land markets, because as we've said for quite a long time now, it completely goes against what we're seeing in the international markets.
Absolutely. So just to wrap it up, just quickly, what's some of those favourite high country places that you have an affinity to across the North or South Island, as we're talking about this tonight?
Well, I am a little bit biased, being that we farm on the Taihape Road and we have the likes of Ngāmatea and Timahanga, within an hour's drive of us. Just absolutely amazing country when you head up through the forestry and onto that highland up there, and it just opens out in front of you. It's just amazing. I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Suz Bremner, Senior Sheep and Beef Analyst there for AgriHQ. And of course, as I said, if you're interested in following the amazing insights that AgriHQ do, subscribe to their market reports at agrihq.co.nz.
This is Sarah's Country.